Climify is independent of climate designers. The views expressed on Climify are solely those of the host, Eric Benson, and guests of each episode, and do not represent the views of the climate designers. Hey, it's Eric. We are inching closer to season 5 of Climify, where, drumroll please, the topic will be optimism. Climate optimism, to be precise. What is it? Should we have it at all? And how can we be optimistic despite all the bad political news these days? And importantly, answer the question, how can we hold space for climate grief? Our team has recorded 2/3 of the episodes, and our new social media intern and designer have put together a whole new look for season 5, and I'm excited about it. One of the things to get excited about is the first ever DC Climate Week. This is happening April 28th until May 2nd, 2025, in, of course, Washington, D.C. It's the first ever event of its kind in D.C., and it's about time it happened. Heading up the effort is our guest today on this special Climify episode, C'pher Gresham. C'pher is an entrepreneur, leader, and technologist dedicated to driving global impact through innovative ventures. He's the former CEO of SeedSpot. Currently, he's the co-founder of GridVolve, a platform focused on innovation for the electric grid. And of course, he's one of the co-founders and co-organizers of the inaugural DC Climate Week. You can learn more about DC Climate Week at dcclimateweek.com. Check it out after this episode with C'pher Gresham. Well, C'pher, welcome to Climify. I'm happy to have you. Big day coming up for DC Climate Week when that starts, and I'm excited to have you here to talk about that event.
Excited to be here, Eric. I'm honored to be part of this and one of the co-organizers of DC Climate Week. I'm honored to be on Climify talking to you about the impact that we're going to make in April and beginning in May.
Me too. Yeah. Well, that leads me to really right off the bat. How did you get involved in climate action? And kind of an aside here, but I'm really interested because you are so active in it. What advice would you have for those who are maybe sitting on the fence about joining the cause?
Yeah, it's a great question. My personal journey into working in climate action really goes back to 2015 when I was helping run this early stage social impact accelerator called SeedSpot. Still around today. It's an amazing organization.
SeedSpot, okay.
SeedSpot, yeah. It helps idea stage founders go from 0 to 1 on social impact ventures. And a founder joined the boot camp, this individual, Brad Terrace, a architect and engineer by training, and he wanted to start this company called Be Helper, which was a smartphone app that determines the sources that are inhibiting energy efficiency in buildings. And really at that moment where a big light bulb went off as he was talking about the problems and how the built environment takes so much energy and the long pipeline connecting to the grid and how inefficient our current built environment can be, and the negative consequences that has on the climate and on energy resources more broadly. That was when a light bulb went off, and I told my dad, who was actually an architect, about this, and he gave me a book, Cradle to Cradle by Bill Dunn.
I know that book.
It's an amazing,
It is
such a great book, and that really started my journey.
Yeah.
Along the path for climate action. At the same time, I started a company a few years prior to 2015 in the coffee supply chain, where we had coffee farmers in rural Colombia. My co-founder lived down there. We focused on adding value to the rural growing community by roasting at origin and working and taking those beans and distributing them in the US. So more value add and economically happened in Colombia. And as we progressed in that business, as we talked with all the farmers, over the years, not where we started in like 2013, we kept on hearing about the stressed plants, the erratic
Mhm.
rainfall, and the impact of climate on the coffee industry. So between those two professional instances where I had this entrepreneur and then where I actually saw firsthand the decreasing crop yields, the challenges of the farmers, mudslides in rural Colombia, that's really where I kind of got the whole climate action passion to get going. And so from there, it really became embedded in everything that I did.
Mhm.
And so about 9 months ago, I was sitting having coffee with a few individuals in the Washington, D.C. Entrepreneurship ecosystem. And we all looked at each other and said, hey, there's amazing climate technology, policymakers, and other individuals that are happening that's being built in Washington, D.C. We need to organize ourselves a little bit more and make sure that
Mhm.
we all know each other and are connected. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it does feel like to me that there are a lot of really uh, important climate initiatives happening out there, and they're not all like aware of one another. So I really appreciate that conversation you have with your friends because I think it's true.
Yeah. We're all trying to like make action on our own. And then sometimes it's like you just want to be able to break bread with one another, talk about the challenges, and then be inspired by others. And that's really what started out last summer between amongst about 10 of us, and then it grew to 20 of us. And then there are some other groups that Climate DC that has a monthly meetup. And we set up an advisory board, and we had this really, really powerful connectivity where everybody looked at one another and said, we love going to these other events outside of DC, but how do we make something happen here
Mm.
in Washington, D.C.? And since we're all entrepreneurs and builders, we said, let's make it happen.
Yeah. So it seems like that was at a lunch or a coffee meeting. That was sort of the impetus for the DC Climate Week. Is that true?
That is, yeah. And it was, it happened really organically. And part of the ethos around DC Climate Week, it's for the community by the community. It's built on all volunteer team that everyone is part of different, they're a different part of their climate journey. So some are just starting out, some have been in it for 20 years, 30 years building around climate. And through these conversations that we've had, we built an advisory board, we built an executive board, and through enabling everyone to be involved by enabling all groups to be part of DC Climate Week, we've actually, I think, got the ball rolling to something that's extremely impactful.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm wondering, I mean, I'm getting a lot of emails right now about San Francisco uh, Climate Week and LA Climate Week and DC. This is the first one, right? Down over there in Washington,
This
DC.
is the first one.
It
Yeah, yeah.
is, yeah. And so that's really exciting. Is there something unique about the DC area compared to, LA, San Francisco, which makes this particular event even that much cooler?
Yeah, the so every community in my mind should have a climate week because so many local organizations to national, federal, international organizations are doing amazing work in each of the different cities across the world. So I think every city should have the opportunity to bring the community together for a week, but then extend that to longer than a week. But DC, as we know, is the heart of climate policy, regulation, but also a large funder of climate because we have the federal government here, and we also have the international bodies here, like the World Bank, IMF, IDB, and other alphabet soup
Yeah.
organizations that fund climate,
Mhm.
broadly, globally, and have infrastructure projects and other aspects here. We have amazing NGOs, non-government organizations, nonprofits, think tanks, and those federal agencies that all come together to make a really vibrant, uh, you know, potpourri of climate like
Yeah.
conversations that can happen, but they're all happening at different layers of the climate cake, right? You have some that are very international, but then you go really local, where you have Climate Ready DC initiative set up by the DC government that's helping DC create a more adaptation and resilient plan for DC as city itself. And when we just one thing I think is really important as we look at DC's story in the climate space is that DC is not just the District of Columbia. It's DC, Maryland, and Virginia
Mhm.
all coming together as a powerhouse where we have incredible universities from Johns Hopkins to Georgetown to George Washington University to George Mason University, American University. I
Yeah, I was
can't
going to say American
Howard University. I
University.
can't
Yeah,
name them all.
yeah,
There's so
yeah.
many. Uh, but then we also have all the satellite campuses like USC's campus that's hosting one of the days of DC Climate Week that are all part of this conversation
Yeah.
that are forwarding, and we have youth voices here as well as incredibly experienced civic leaders running nonprofits of like WRI, and then also places like Bezos Earth Fund are based here. So this vibrant mix really makes DC unique, and the commitment locally in Washington DC in the District of Columbia itself is really, really exciting.
Mhm.
Some facts that most people don't know: Washington, D.C. was the first LEED certified city in the world.
Really?
Pretty amazing,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
right? And it's great because the U.S. Green Building Council, their headquarters are here in D.C. as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this past season we've had Michelle Moore on the program, who was in the Obama administration and the Green Building Council.
That's great. Yeah. And, the other pieces about DC that I think are really exciting on the renewable energy side and distributed energy resources, the DC has the highest, if not near to the highest, solar renewable energy credits, the most valuable in the nation. And that's because of the commitment of the
That's
DC
great.
City Council for making that happen. But also, like I mentioned, the Climate Ready DC initiative, which is all around DC's plan to adapting to climate change. And that's a local and federal initiative to help make sure DC itself, because DC was built on a swamp, make sure that it's not prone, and some of our
Yeah,
beloved museums and monuments don't get flooded.
yeah, yeah. I was actually thinking, was it yesterday? Probably was yesterday, about this interview and how it was the first climate week in DC. And I was thinking, geez, why isn't there one in my town? And so you just brought that up.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a selfish question, but is there like a blueprint or something where if I'm interested in bringing this to my community, a climate week to my community, does anyone kind of have a blueprint about this that we could use?
I've not seen a blueprint, but we have definitely had in our executive board, we have had some conversations of how do we create a blueprint? And we don't have all the answers. I think actually combining the resources from Climate Week New York, Climate Week San Francisco, LA, Pacific Northwest, London, all these different groups, like creating a open source plan of
Mhm.
here's how you actually get a climate week off the ground in your community at
That'd
the
be great.
highest level. There's a few magic pieces that you need to have, and first and foremost, it's a broad set of diverse leaders that say yes.
Mhm.
And it's amazing when you just ask, what do you think about this? Individuals raise their hand and say, I'm really excited to help make a climate week happen in our community. And that spirit of inclusivity, I think, is a crucial aspect in order to create any climate week, because this is inherently a more decentralized event over
Mm.
over the course of
Yeah, I
five,
can see.
7 days, right?
Yeah,
And
I
so
can see that.
everybody
Yeah.
has to be able to come and have a seat at the table. And that's really, really important. Another crucial piece, if I'm thinking about how to start a climate week, is engaging all the local universities, engaging all of the different stakeholders, nonprofits, for profits, make sure that they are invited very early on,
Hmm.
and
Did,
then
did you work with the
volunteers.
local government at all there in DC or?
We did, yeah. Local government was is a huge part of that initial stakeholder group, right? Because you want to understand the how what is the local government currently doing? Here in the DMV area, the DC government has the Department of Energy and Efficiency that helps run Climate Ready DC. They have a bunch of these different initiatives, but then they also have the initiatives that help with local economic development that are really excited about, hey, how can we leverage the the massive amount of energy and forward-looking progress and abundant mindset that entrepreneurs and climate weeks bring to the table about here's how we can make a better future, and because that brings a lot of individuals and attracts them to the city to come and have the conversations that are worthwhile having. So local government is a huge stakeholder, and with DC Climate Week, we were lucky enough to work with DC government and Events DC and Destination DC on the uh, identifying the best dates, the best times, the best partners to make DC Climate Week come to life for the first year ever.
Well, I've never been to a climate week, and you're starting to sell me on this one. But what can I expect if I were to go to the climate week there in DC? What kind of events, what kind of things are going on?
Yeah, the climate weeks range from uh, panels to speakers to pitch competitions to e-bike rides to runs to yoga to food pop-up demonstrations to
Oh, that sounds
uh,
good.
how to shop like more sustainably
Yeah,
to having different uh, whiskey and tastings that are
that sounds even
sustainably.
better than.
It's yeah, the wide variety of different activations that happen during Climate Week is really down to the imagination of the community. So the piece with DC, we have 5 different themes throughout the week, from climate innovation technology to policy and advocacy on day 2, to climate finance and economy on day 3, to nature on day 4, to mobility, water, and urban development on day 5.
Mhm.
Each day we have a specific hub location that where we'll have main stage programming. And that's where individuals can RSVP and lottery in to get free access to the main stage programming.
Oh, great.
But I want to highlight the crucial part of Climate Weeks that gets me really excited is that all groups can launch their own events and push them live on a shared DC Climate Week calendar. And I think that's part of the ethos. If you are a local, business improvement district, like, or a main street in DC, if they want to be part of it, they can activate a cleanup. They can activate a walking tour to highlight the really
Oh, that's
sustainable
cool.
opportunities of their community.
Where is this calendar? Is it online?
It is, yeah. So just dcclimateweek.com and view events. And we leveraged a shared event platform that all individuals can set up their own events throughout the week.
So businesses, nonprofits, any of that?
Yes. Nonprofits, governments, businesses, all the different entities. Some of the If I may, I think some of the exciting events that we have going on, just to give people a sneak
Yeah.
peek.
Yeah.
We have the American Institute of Architects. Their headquarters is based here in DC, and it's this incredible. I believe it was a 1970s built building that's currently under renovation. And they partnered with the firm EHDD to redesign and renovate their 1970s building and turn it net zero. But it's under renovation. So wouldn't it be cool to like put on a hard hat and go take a tour of that
It
and actually
would.
see what are the systems? So they're opening it up to the public, and they're actually having their architecture firm do walkthroughs. That's an example of like what's such a unique opportunity.
Hmm.
We also have the George Washington University's Milken School of Public Health hosting Climate Change and Health, which is all about fostering community resilience in a changing policy landscape. So the connection between climate and health has become a really big emerging
Yeah,
kind of field, right?
for sure. Yeah.
So the Milken School of Public Health is sponsoring and hosting a lunch during it. So individuals who maybe uh, don't fully view themselves as climate action advocates because they're maybe working in the health field, they have an avenue in to kind of discover the Venn diagrams and the connectivity between health and climate.
You mentioned some events there, and I'm wondering, are there any people you're really excited about that are going to be at DC Climate Week?
Yeah, too many to fully like give you the full rundown. So I will say that we have some incredible luminaries speaking throughout the week. I want to start off by uh, where my climate journey started with the book, Cradle to Cradle.
And
Uh,
mine
we'll
too. So
have
that's cool.
Bill McDonough is going to be
Is he going to be
speaking
there?
on
All right.
Urban Development Day. So I'm personally probably the most excited because I'll be fanboying in the front row.
Bring your book. Bring your book.
Yeah, I'm gonna get him to sign it. Though I think I have the book on Kindle. So,
Oh, have him
you
sign
know,
the back of your
I'll sign
Kindle.
exactly. You can't lose that Kindle.
He signed my book. I do have like it's super heavy if anyone's ever picked it up at the library or bought it. He signed the inside of it for me. So
Oh,
I
incredible.
fanboyed too.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for Bill McDonough. We have Sir Andrew Steer, the former CEO for Bezos Earth Fund and WRI, as our opening keynote. We also it's DC. Look, we have to have some policy folks in on this.
Yeah, yeah.
We're really, really proud that we have a bipartisan policy day where we have Representative Buddy Carter, a Republican from Georgia, on a panel with other representatives like Donald Byer from Virginia, a Senator Brian Schatz, Democrat from Hawaii, speaking, Representative Chrissy Houlihan, a Democrat from Pennsylvania, speaking, and a group of other luminaries in the policy space that will be talking. What's the future of policy? How does climate and national security mix? What are the risks for for AI in the future? And then, we have great on Nature Day. I want to highlight we have Mike Parr, who's the president of American Bird Conservancy, who's going to be speaking, which is just incredible to dive really deep into some of the emerging challenges for our bird population and some of the hopeful aspects that are happening in that population.
How did you do that? How did you get both parties to come together? Maybe you should be running for office there in DC if you're able to get.
Well, I think that would be if we had a vote in DC, but we
Right,
don't.
that's true, right? Right. No,
We
no.
we we I love and so inspired by the journey of our Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton. While non-voting, she's incredible and has done so many things to forward the climate initiative and civil rights throughout her career. So honored that she's our representative. But yeah, someday I hope we can get a vote here in DC. But that's my own personal opinion. That's not DC Climate
Yeah.
Week
No,
opinion.
yeah, yeah. Well, you could just move like the town over in Virginia and
Yeah.
there you go. But did you reach out to these policymakers or did you have like a conduit to help you with that? Because I mean, you got both parties there to talk about such an important issue.
It's a great question. And I think this is where what's really important and doesn't come up often enough in our highly polarized society right now.
Yeah.
It's that, look, over 70% of the population of the US knows that climate change is real and believes that climate change is happening.
Yeah.
And that number is only going up. And that's actually from a George Mason and Yale study that's been
Yeah,
done.
I've seen that one.
And so, I think by starting at a place of that this is real, and then asking the individuals that uh, are part of climate caucus and renewable energy caucuses, and you know uh, we're able to help bridge that gap and depolarize this, at least in some of the conversations that we've had. And I hope that DC Climate Week comes out, and one of the core tenets of DC Climate Week itself is being nonpartisan, that we help facilitate olive branches between individuals that maybe wouldn't find commonality amongst other issues. But when they look at their kids, and when they look at their kids' kids, they say, I want to make sure that my community is able to be here. If you're from the Outer Banks in North Carolina to the mountains in Colorado, we're all seeing climate change affect us. And by breaking bread and having real honest conversations together, we're able to make and forge tighter bonds to propel the US, but then also globally faster, better, to a more optimistic, more beneficial, abundant future.
That's what I hope too. So I'm right on board with you there, and I think it is smart to have this event as this, nonpartisan. Let's come together on this issue because we're all affected by it. What else do you hope happens from this week of climate in DC?
And we hope that this is not just the first, but the first of many, and that we can continue the conversation at all the other impressive events that happen throughout the year, hosted by multitude of different organizations, and that individuals leave inspired, energized, and ready to take on the fight for climate action. We know that there's times for holding the space for grief. There's times for holding the space for sadness. There's time to hold the space for being overwhelmed. Hope to create space for all those emotions during DC Climate Week, and channel all those emotions and help individuals overcome some of the more negative emotions and be inspired by the stories and the and action oriented panels, workshops, and everything, so that they may take action.
Yeah.
I think it's great. We're having one of the speakers that I'm really excited to hear from is Grant, the CEO of Mast Reforestation. Really excited to hear his founding journey, right, on Climate Innovation Day. And that's an example of a founder that I think will leave individuals inspired to do more and take action themselves, or join different groups. And one of the pieces that I know is happening right now in DC is that there are incredible amount of pressure due to layoffs on individuals, like professional lives.
Yeah.
And we took that, what could be a very overwhelming sense for many individuals, and through one of our executive board members, Jigger Shaw, he who is the former Department of Energy Program Loans Office director, he we were talking and we said, we need to do something. And so we started the National Job Fair. So I
Oh,
hope
that's
that
great.
I hope that individuals can attend DC Climate Week, and if they're looking to get more engaged in the climate space, that they find a job that's aligned with their
That's
passion
wonderful. Yeah, good thinking.
and move it forward.
Now, did you have to partner with a particular organization for the job fair, or how does it all come together?
Yeah, the job fair, really excited for it. So it's being powered by Clean Energy for America, which is a
Awesome.
nonprofit. That's they took up the lead here to help organize it and bringing it together. And this really is a testament to finding win-wins and building a bigger tent, making sure all groups can come in and contribute. DC Climate Week is really more than just the sum of all of its parts. It's the energy that we're all bringing from Clean Energy for America to Tech for Climate Action, who's leading Policy and Advocacy Day, to all the different venues from Johns Hopkins University, USC, to our venue host Tishman Speyer, all opening up their doors and saying, let's do this. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's make climate action happen.
Yeah. Sounds like you might need some volunteers to help out with some of this. Is that true?
Yes, we're all volunteer led
Yeah.
initiative, and we have right now we have over 200 volunteers actively working across all the different days, making sure every individual has a touch point through this. All the speakers feel welcomed, all the events come online as seamlessly as possible. But we always need more volunteers and more energy, and truly, everyone is welcome. So they can get involved by checking out our website. We have a volunteer form, we have a speaker form, we have how to add your own events. And if people aren't sure where to start, I think we all need to just do it. As one of the co-organizers on a broader team of amazing advisory board members and executive board members and volunteers, it's like individuals that take initiative and build an event, say, I'm going to host a walk around my neighborhood during DC Climate Week, can do that. And it feels great.
So it's dcclimateweek.com, right?
It is, yes.
I like the fact that this is such a very grassroots type event. And from my experience in design, working or designing or creating with other people is one of the best ways, I think, for folks to feel empowered and feel some sense of ownership because they were a part of it. And seeing like someone can just sign up and take a walk through my neighborhood. I'll show you where all the daffodils are or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Let's
wonderful.
garden on Saturday,
Yeah, I
right?
love
Like,
there's a lot of people in my area who are experts in like indigenous plants. And it's always interesting. You can invite them over to your backyard. My wife has done this and they've gone through and said, that's not indigenous to the area. Maybe you should get rid of it. So, like, that kind of stuff would be super cool to have there, even during your week as well.
would love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody's listening that is an indigenous plant expert, we would love to have that.
Yeah. dcclimateweek.com, sign up your backyard or whatever you can do to take part in it. I want to ask you another question about just climate in general. It it's sort of something that I've heard a lot from you already, but I just wanted you to sort of stress it at this point too, is why is climate action so important right now?
It's incredible question. Climate action to me is so important right now because I have a 5.5-year-old son, and some of my favorite memories growing up were being with my grandparents in their backyards in Southern Virginia, in the Hampton Roads area, right on the water. And it would constantly, whenever there was a high tide, their road into where they lived would flood. And that's only gotten progressively more challenging for the infrastructure there. So when I look at my son, I want to make sure that he has the ability to experience the beauty of nature in the same way that I did growing up,
Yeah.
and then also see the opportunities forward for technological innovations that are happening that are meeting the needs right now for climate action. And broadly speaking, I think we all can really connect to the uh, time and place where we had our first, tomato off a vine from our backyard, sun kissed. And I hope, that future generations will know and love that by not from, you know, be able to experience that first sun ripened tomato to see the places that their ancestors grew up in.
Yeah, I'm right with you there. And I definitely went through that grief, the climate grief that you mentioned before, because I noticed the loss. I still live in the Midwest, and that snow isn't here anymore. And there's there's a lot that I mean that just makes me feel. There's so many emotions that makes me feel, but one of them is grief, and I don't want that for uh my daughter or your son.
Yeah, and I think that's why we can take this, bias towards action
Mhm.
and say that there's always individuals in your life that are gonna tell you no, and that's not a good idea. But it's far easier to take the path of n not doing something, but then live in that regret than say yes to something and get inspired along the way. And then when you're taking action, you're you're seeing that those perceived no's were actually either they were real and uh they're either those barriers they were real and you have to surmount them, which makes it even more of an accomplishment, or they weren't there at all. Majority of the reason why individuals don't start initiatives, build things is because of false pretenses of why it won't work.
Yeah.
And so this bias towards and that's human psychology 101. Like that's helped us survive for millennia, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, don't jump into that river. You don't know what's at the bottom of it, right? Like that's healthy response.
Yeah.
But by overcoming that, you're able to see an immense amount of hope and accomplishment when you take even small steps to building something.
I'm heading to my last question here, and it's one I ask every guest. And I feel like you'd be a really good person to answer this question based on all that you've done and what you will be doing at Climate Week in DC. Is if you were to teach a class on climate action, what would you assign the students? What kind of project or what would you just have them do based on what you know?
As a former educator myself, I
Thank you for your service.
yeah, had tons of fun. Taught
Yeah.
taught social entrepreneurship at University of Maryland. Incredible experience. And I would create a class and a project around going 0 to 1 to helping, uh, students form teams to create startups that address the climate. And so they would have to determine ways to identify root cause of problems that exist within the climate space, and then come up with activities that would be net value adds that would create a startup company that would inevitably make an impact to address those root cause problems and find ways that they would create self-sustaining companies to continue to make that impact.
Mm.
Think so often and they could be for profits or nonprofits. It's not about structure, but it's about the addressing the root cause of the problem through a new innovative idea, um, and really deeply building the empathy for the people who experience the problem firsthand. People, nature, animals that experience that problem firsthand, and then thinking of the creatively of the ways to overcome those problems. And it takes that from just an idea to actually putting the first pieces of how to take action on paper. And ultimately, I believe that the students we would get some ideas and students that would actually forward and build that company or build that solution.
Yeah, that's a really cool project. That's something that I think uh, would be a great like interdisciplinary class with like you taught social entrepreneurships, bring in some designers, business,
Have to, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What's this the standard mantra a few years ago was you gotta have the hacker, the hipster, and the hustler all come together, right? So you got the hacker, the like engineering mindset, you got the hipster mindset, which is more the design field mindset, and then the hustler, which is more the sales side of it. And so that interdisciplinary, they come from all different schools, right? Come together and help create a startup. I would probably add, I don't know what the next H would be on that, but an individual that would be responsible for impact. That would be the one piece that I would ensure that they would need to have. So
I guess I might be the hipster, maybe in that.
yeah, maybe we'll see. I don't know if that's even a cool term now these days.
I don't think
Who
so.
knows?
I think they've twisted it.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely have a skill set that I don't have, and that's event planning. Just one more question for you. What advice do you have to make a successful event happen?
Ask for help. Ultimately, building DC Climate Week wouldn't be possible without having an immense team of volunteers with their expertise. And that's by knowing each and individual, like every individual has limitations, but together we can build something stronger. So asking for help along the way. I know a few things here and there, and I understand that, but we need support. Everyone needs their own board, like their own network and support from family, but also professionally.
Yeah.
And through the event, we have to have the groups all that can manage all the different stakeholders, have individuals who can manage sponsorships, to communications, PR, marketing, design,
Yeah.
the pure event management logistics aspect.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of work.
It feels good though when you know it's helping, when you know it's bringing people together.
Well, thank you, C'pher. It's been a great conversation. Tell us again, when is DC Climate Week? Where can we find you online, on social media? Give us all the scoop.
Yeah, DC Climate Week, April 28th through May 2nd, 2025, Washington, D.C. Check it out, dcclimateweek.com.
Thanks again, C'pher. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks for listening. And we want to hear from you. What did you take away from this discussion? Email us at climifypodcast@gmail.com or connect with us on Instagram at climifypodcast. We would love to read your inspirational stories on the show in upcoming episodes. This program is produced by Jackie Himmel and Bhavna Bhavani Shankar, designed by Adam Java. Sound engineering and editing by me, Eric Benson. A special thanks to Mark O'Brien at the Climate Designers and Tink Media for their sage advice to make this season even better than the last. You can find design prompts and more information on all our guests this season at climatedesigners.org/edu/Climify and on Instagram and LinkedIn at Climify Podcast. If you enjoy the work we all do here and you have a spare minute or two, we would truly appreciate it if you left a rating and review over at Apple Podcasts. The more folks reviewing our program, the higher the algorithm pushes us up in the search results. And in turn, the more likely we all could learn how to become climate designers.